Burnouts. Whew, do we have an episode for today? Since we last recorded, the Heat have lost two very winnable games, which always hurts the soul. But on the bright side, these were two very winnable games against two very good teams, while we've been missing two of our best scorers, Hero and Powell. Now, as we record this Monday morning, we do have another game tonight, a late one. So quite honestly, I'll be watching the replay of this in the morning, 10:30 p.m. start. Come on, man. What are we doing here? That's tough luck for all the East Coast fans out here. But the hope is that Powell was upgraded to questionable for this game against the Lakers, so maybe he'll be available for his revenge game against the Clippers, the team that didn't extend him and that honestly looks like they could use him. Afterwards, we have our last game of this West Coast road trip on Wednesday night against the Nuggets. And playing the Nuggets in Denver is never fun. I mean, in general, playing Jokic is never fun. As always, I am your host, Christian Felipe, aka Fired Up Felipe, aka the Chief Burnout, aka 500 Chris, maybe 500 Heat. Thank you for tuning in once again. Please make sure to like, subscribe, drop a 5-star rating, comment, share it with your friends, your coworkers, your theos, your tias, and anyone else who you might be seeing around the Thanksgiving table. For today's pod, we'll be recapping the first half of this road trip, the Spurs and the Lakers game, and then we'll be previewing that Clippers and Nuggets game. We'll also be doing a quick segment on Noah LaRoche. Who is Noah LaRoche, you ask? Well, if you don't know, he's one of the chief architects of this new offensive system the Heat have been implementing, but we'll get into all that and more after this. Let's get right into it. So, as we covered over at the top, we did have two games that we're going to be talking about here. We did play the Spurs, which was a close game that we lost, and we played the Lakers, which was another, ended up being a close game that we lost. Didn't start off as a close game, but we were able to keep the fight up. There's, a couple of things that we wanted to look at as we were getting into it. I'll be going through just a couple of different stats, points that I had before the game and after the game and some takeaways. Looking at the Spurs game specifically, I remember looking into it. Our pace going into that game was that of 109.13. Their pace was 97.58. And I was wondering if we'd be able to speed them up. And mostly, not really. I mean, we sped them up a tiny bit, but it wasn't much. The pace did not increase all that much. Again, I do think, just to say it at the top, I think the not having Powell and not having Hero plays a huge role in our ability to win these games and to how these games went. But regardless, we can still look at it and take some takeaways. I did have some hope that, maybe we could get some more points in the paint on them than they normally allow, which we did get more than they normally allow, but we weren't getting our season average. I think going into that game, they only allowed 39.5 points in the paint, and we were able to get 46. We did win the turnover battle. Well, they won the turnover battle, which was a little bit confusing, or not confusing necessarily, but there was a hope there that because of the amount of turnovers that they had been having, they were one of the worst assist turnover teams in the league going into that game, and we were a top 6 team in steals going into that game. The hope was if we could feast there. And unfortunately, we were unable to. Harper and Castle both played really well and were able to limit those turnovers quite a bit. They were able to defend that fast break well against us and just defend us well in general. But there were some bright spots there because Bam had his best game of the season and one of his best games ever, like most complete games that he has had. He went 31, 10, 3, 1 and 1. That game, 12 of 27 from the field, 4 for 13 from 3. He shot 13 threes. One of those was like a last second shot at the end of the game. So even if we're just saying 4 for 12, it was still a lot of shots. And he went cold. I think at one point he was like 3 for 7 from 3. And then it just kind of got worse throughout the game. But regardless, he was a +7 in that loss. And even more interesting here is that when he was being guarded by Wemby, he shot 9 of 15 from the field. So that's 60% from the field. And that's when he did go 3 of 7 from 3 when being guarded by Wemby. He had that amazing dunk on Wemby. He took Wemby off the drive at least a handful of times that game. He was making shots. He was making the right reads. He was playing very aggressive, was bumping him out of position, was also guarding him very well. Wemby's stats when guarded by Bam: 1 assist, 1 turnover, 5 of 13 from the field, so 38.5%, and 1 of 3 from 3. So Bam was limiting Wemby's ability to score when he was guarding Wemby. Um, and it was working for us in terms of that, but there was just a lack of spacing. Ware had probably his worst game of the season. I ended up having to drink some milk on this one. I had a milk or wine prediction that Ware would outperform Wemby in this game, and that was far from the truth. I truly left that game feeling like Ware has ups and downs, and he had a lack of confidence in that game. His shot wasn't falling. He started the game kind of taking those open threes that he was getting, and they were off. Which it's hard when you're a young player, even for some older players, to see their shot just not falling. And then later in the game, it looked like he was getting some of those open shots and he was passing them up, which I understand the tension between not wanting to shoot us out of the game, like not wanting to keep throwing up bricks, but you have to trust yourself and your teammates trust you that if you're open, you have to shoot those shots. And we live and die by that. If you have the open shot, take the open shot, especially if you're being guarded by a smaller defender on a closeout. You're 7'1", however tall you are, with a huge release, very high release point. You can get that shot off if they're not anywhere near you. So I just think the confidence was an issue there. And it was an issue even going into this Lakers game, but I'm hoping that we can get some, recovery from Ware going into the Clippers game, which we'll talk about a little later. In that Spurs game, just to read the line too, Ware went 0-4 from the field, which all were 3-point attempts, 0-4 from three. He had 7 rebounds, all defensive, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 1 turnover. He was the worst on the team, -20 in that game. So we were losing the minutes with him on the floor, not what you want to see. Of course, it's a second-year player. It's too soon to really think too much about that, but it was tough. And also, I know it's easy to look at the one bad quarter, just nix it from the game and be like, we should have won. But I really did want to just see that third quarter was terrible for us. It was our lowest scoring quarter of the season. We only scored 14 points in the third quarter. But had the Heat ignored that third quarter, just looking at the first, second, and fourth quarters of that game, the Heat would have been up 87-79. Woo, we win the 3 quarters of the game. We won 3/4 of a game. Unfortunately, that's not how basketball is played, and we lost the game because we had such a stinker of a third quarter, and because, honestly, we had times and opportunities at the end of that fourth to be able to win, and it slipped through our hands, and that's okay. The Spurs are a damn good team. Wemby is a damn good player. The shots weren't falling, and we were missing some of our best players. I do want to call out that Wiggins had possibly his best game of the season. That game was also aggressive in attacking Wemby. I believe he went 5 for 5 when guarded by Wemby. So was scoring very well against him. He went 11 for 18 from the field, so 61%. He went 2 of 5 from 3. He had 6 rebounds, 3 of them offensive, 3 offensive rebounds for Wiggins, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 2 turnovers, and 24 points total. He was playing great. His plus minus was 0, so normal for a loss. Bam was one of the only people in the positive with 7. Drew Smith had a plus minus of 4, and Simone had a plus minus of 3. Simone shot lights out that game. He went 5 of 7 from 3. So obviously, when you're shooting that hot, which did not continue into the Lakers game, you're going to perform well. So it's too early in the season to know how hot and cold Simone will get. We will see what he averages out at, but I think overall he's been a great addition for us. It was a rough Nico game again. It was a rough Kalel game. Jaime had a decent game. He was only a -1. Obviously, the scoring was down. I did kind of predict that his ability to attack the paint would be nulled by the fact that Wemby exists and that he's hovering over there. So he only had 6 points that game, but he did have 8 rebounds. He did have 6 assists. He was playing all right. It was not a bad Hawkes game, but not a great Hawkes game necessarily. So leaving that game, I felt okay. I would have liked to have won, but I didn't think that really I didn't think it was going to be as close as it was without Powell, to be honest with you. And I knew we weren't going to have Hero. That's still been the case, even though he's traveling with the team right now. I went into it knowing there was going to be no Hero, but I went into it with some hope that Powell would play. And to be honest, it's a moral victory. It's a win in the loss column that we were able to keep it that close without Norman Powell. We're missing 2 potential All-Stars from our roster right now, who are our leading scorers, who are our primary floor spacers, who also just initiate the offense in a way that most of the other players on our team right now cannot do. So I don't think you can take that for granted. And then going into this Lakers game, wow. Um, First of all, 9:30 start. We were up kind of late. We're up early today. We're talking about this right after. The Lakers were the second worst turnover team in the league going into this game with 18 turnovers a game, and we were unfortunately unable to capitalize on that. I was hoping that we would. I was hoping that we'd be able to read those passing lanes, and it did come alive a little bit later on in the game. It felt like, but early on, we were just. I mean, we got off to a terrible start against them. They were cooking us in that first quarter. They in the first half in general, but really that first quarter was terrible for us. They only had 11 turnovers that game. Again, they were averaging 18 a game before. They also had, I think, some shooting luck. Smart went 3 of 7 from three. Rui went 3 of 5 from three. Jackson Hayes even hit a three. So I don't think those are things that they can necessarily always count on. Not that I'm calling this a fluke. They played well. Laravia, who the hell is number 12? Shout out Anthony Edwards. Jake Laravia has been playing wonderfully for them and was playing really well. And I do want to say I had hope going into this game that Ware would have a bounce back game because he didn't play well against the Spurs. And then Jackson Hayes showed out and was scoring at will on Ware. This is a guy who almost was out of the league, who JJ Redick is not a fan of, and you could see it on the court. There were several times that he got upset about Jackson Hayes' play. Uh, but Ware played really poorly to start the game. After 5 minutes, he got sat. He started in the first and he got sat and didn't play again until the end of the third, which I will give him credit, and Spo gave him credit for that. When he did check back in, he was playing well. He was part of the roster, the lineup that helped us get back into the game and get it down to only a 4-point deficit in the fourth. So, he showed some signs of life later, but we really need him to show that to start the game. Ware needs to check in and give full energy. It was just, I don't know if this offense is a little bit hard for him to understand or get used to. It is different than like a typical pick and roll offense that a big might be used to, but he's just not showing out yet. It's too soon to say, anything definitive about his career. It's a second-year player. We're seeing Jaime's second year and transitioning into his third year now. So a lot of things can change. It's still only a couple games in, but really, really just want to see him engaged more than anything. I don't care about the missing shots. I truly don't. Like in that Spurs game when he was shooting and he went 0 for 4, it feels bad to see him bricking, but take the open shot. If you've got a shot, take it, or try to do something on the court. It just felt like he really wasn't active. I do also want to say that before this game, I had a milk or wine take that Austin Reeves would have his worst game of the season. I'm not drinking milk or wine on this one because technically he did have his worst game of the season. He didn't shoot very well. He was still dishing dimes. He still cooked. That's why I'm not, celebrating here with a glass of wine. He still played fairly well. I also made this prediction while Luka was still suspected to be out and while Norman Powell was still suspected to be in. So some context there, but AR played well, even though he didn't shoot the ball necessarily all that great. Luka didn't even shoot the ball all that great this game. When looking at their stat lines, Luka and Austin, weirdly enough, both went 9 of 22 from the field. Luka went 1 for 11 from 3, and Reeves went 4 for 14 from 3. He did have 11 assists and only 3 turnovers. I was pissed as I was on my hater watch for milk or wine take. His plus minus ended at a 7, which is one of the lower ones for the starters in that game. But up until the fourth quarter, Austin's plus minus was 0. So I was excited going into that fourth quarter, but he played pretty well. There was this one play in the fourth where he fell on, trying getting guarded by, I forget if it was Davion or Drew, whoever was on him, but he fell on the floor and then he recovered and made a shot, which is just like the confidence on this guy, man. Shout out to him. Some other call outs from this game, just in general, that first half, we had our worst defensive half of the season, allowing them to score as much as they did. I believe they had 76 points in the first half, which is not great. They won the turnover battle on us, which we were hoping that we would win. We did miss 11 free throws. We won the free throw game in terms of getting to the line because they're not the best defensive team. They foul a lot on defense, but we missed 11 free throws. And in a game that ended up being a 10-point game, which was much closer than that really, because the end of the game got a little wonky, but we missed 11 free throws. So we could have been in this game had we hit those free throws. Again, this was a really close, really competitive game, and we're missing Powell and Hero. I know the Lakers are missing LeBron and they're missing DA. So there's people missing on both sides, but they still have an MVP caliber player on their team, who's, able to play offense like a magician. So us missing our offensive catalyst in Norman Powell, I think, are at least more impactful than them missing DA. And it's maybe a wash on the LeBron front in terms of his age and what he does in the regular season. I'm not discounting LeBron's ability to play. I'm a LeBron fan, but uh, I also think I just kept thinking about how Hero's going to fit on this lineup, and I know you're going to lose some defense by bringing Hero in, but it is a little bit easier to play defense when you score the ball easier. Good offense makes for good D because when you score, you're able to set up just a little bit easier. They're not getting buckets in transition. They're not getting, these quick offensive rebounds and outlet passes. So I do think just having that dynamic, these two dynamic scorers in Pal and Hero flying up and down the court and spacing the floor gives Bam and Ware and Hawkes and whoever they're sharing the court with just so much more room to work with. So I'm personally excited to see them both on the court. I know Davion has played great. I know Drew has played great. Even Pella in this game was playing great, but it is what it is. I think we need to see both of them share the court together and see how it goes. And we'll probably stagger their minutes the same way that the Lakers were staggering uh Austin Reeves and Luca. They had them staggering quite a bit so that at least one of them was almost always running the offense in this game. A few other notes just as we continue going through, but there was this one play, I believe it was on the fourth, that Bam got crossed up by Luca, which was tough to see our boy get crossed up because up until that moment and throughout the game, Bam was playing incredible defense, not just on Luca, but on everybody. Bam is, he's an incredible defender. Who would have thought? But it immediately reminded me of the Rudy Gobert slander when Luca, hit that game-winning shot on, or that dagger on Rudy Gobert in the playoffs 2 years ago now. And look, again, I think Bam is a better perimeter defender than Rudy. I don't think anyone's arguing that. But when you're playing against one of the best, if not the best, there's question marks there, offensive player in the game, sometimes you're going to get put on a highlight reel, man. So in defensive Rudy and defensive Bam, you could play good defense all game, and then what people remember is the highlight. And Luca crossed up Bam, and that's, all the credit to Luca. Luca is an incredible threat, and it happens. Bam only got crossed up that one time. He was playing great aside from that. There was a lob that Bam caught, which was so beautiful. He soared in the air to catch that one-handed lob. It was just awesome, and I hope to see more of that with Hero and Powell. I do feel like Powell is developing a good two-man game with Ware and with Bam, and Hero obviously already has one with Bam, so just I think the offense is going to get even better once we see them playing together. Um, Other highlight, the biggest highlight for this game from the Heat side of things was Jaime Jaquez, man. He was a +7. He went 31, 8, and 4 while shooting 11 of 16 from the field. When he checked in, and then in the third quarter, we cut the lead to 4 in the fourth, and then we ended up sitting Hawkes and Ware. Hawkes did end up closing the game, so he did get back in, but Hawkes was just so fast, man. Juan Wick out there just running down the court, bulldozing whoever's in front of him, just playing incredible. It really is something to see here, and it makes me think more and more that this isn't a fluke. It's just the way he is playing is awesome. I know the Lakers aren't they're not some incredible defensive team. They allow a lot of points in the paint, but still, just seeing the way that Hawkes flies down the court, he's way faster than even I remember, and that I think most people expect him to be. So just, we're going to be singing Hawkes' praises a lot this year, it looks like. Shout out to him. Another, just a few random stats here, or not stats, a note here. There was there was two instances of people getting mad, or three actually instances of people getting mad this game. There was an argument between Marcus Smart and Hawkes in which they were going to a timeout, so we didn't get to see what was really being said or what happened, but they were chirping at each other, and we ended up shooting a technical off of that. So I don't know what happened there, but I like to see Hawkes getting involved, getting angry. Let's see it. Also, uh, JJ Redick got very upset. I think it was after the Bam slam, and stormed the court to call a timeout. He was so pissed off at, I think, Jackson Hayes at the time, and just in general, the Lakers defense letting us get back into the game. And all the shout out to JJ Redick, because he's a really good coach so far into the league. He's gave credit to Spo. He studied our offense and had some solves for it, and was playing, or had his team playing pretty well. So I think JJ deserves a lot of credit here for the way that the Lakers have played and played against us. So that's cool. And then Luka getting mad in the fourth. He was literally jumping up and down, pounding his feet on the ground, asking for a screen. It was hilarious. He's just so animated when he's in the game. I'm a Luka fan. What can I say? Even though I didn't like losing to them, I am a Luka fan. Um, but my takeaway from this game with the Lakers is, look, if these role players, if this isn't just a blip, if they're really going to keep playing like this, I mean, I think Marcus Smart, regardless of the shooting, he's going to have colder nights than this. I think he was a great pickup for them just because of how much of a dog he is on defense and how much he gets into players just in their face. So I think that was a great pickup for them. I think DA has been decent for them. He wasn't in this game, obviously, but he's been playing pretty well. Jake LaRavia is showing out and playing well. Austin Reeves has taken a huge uptick. I mean, he's not even a role player at this point. He's becoming a star in this league. So if this is going to be the case, the Lakers are going to be a scary team in the West. You never want to play Luka to begin with. I don't think you ever want to play LeBron in the playoffs to begin with. And Austin is going to kill you on the court too. Defensively, they're still going to have some issues that they're going to have to work on. But skinny Luka was playing better defense than before. He's always been pretty good at steals and reading passing lanes. We had a ton of shitty turnovers throughout the game, especially in the first quarter. They were just reading our passing lanes. They kind of knew our plan was, drive and kick, and they were expecting the kick. And just it felt like we were just a second too slow on a lot of those passes. And they were cheating to steal the pass, and we could have read that a little bit better had we taken our time. So learning lessons to be had here. At the end of the day, again, it was a very, very close game, and we shot terribly from three. Wiggs went 1 of 6 from three. Bam went 1 of 5 from three. Simone, my sweet Fontecchio, went 2 of 8. Jovic went 1 of 5 from three. We were able to get 66 points in the paint against them, and our average going into this game was 56. So that's a good sign. But they also got 60 points in the paint on us, and that's from our lack of size. Jovic was not playing well again today. Ware obviously got sat for a majority of the game, and our lack of size shows when it's just Bam out there as the only big who's playing well. So I really do hope that we can get Ware to step it back up, and that Jovic can kind of step it up as well. Because, everyone else on the team, despite the cold shooting from three, was playing pretty decent, excluding that first quarter for the most part. We had a great third quarter. I'll say that. We played wonderfully in that third quarter. And even in the fourth, it was a good game. They scored 43 points in that first quarter against us. 43. So you don't want that. It's not a good game when the other team is able to score 43 in the first. So again, we'll see what happens going into this. We play the Clippers tonight. It'll be a different game, different environment. It is a back-to-back and a late one at that. So we'll see how much that affects us. But just the fact that we showed fight in this game, that we were able to claw back into it and make it a close game, get it down to 4 despite the start, despite the stretches that the Lakers were just shooting. Luka was hitting some crazy shots and getting some crazy and ones. I mean, he's Luka Doncic, so it is what it is. But again, I don't think we should leave this game dooming too hard. I see some people already dooming, saying like, maybe we were all too excited after that 3-1 start, but we're missing Powell and Hero, man. I really don't think you can understate that. I do think there's some question marks here in terms of like, is Jaime better than Wiggins? And I'm a Wiggins guy, but is Jaime maybe a better choice for the starting role? I don't know. Is it redundant? Maybe. Wiggs currently is shooting his worst from three ever. So let's hope there's a regression to the mean there, especially when we have better spacing with Norman Hero on the court as well. Giving him just some more room to be able to shoot the ball. His 2-point percentage is up, which is exciting, but Jaime's having one of his best seasons ever. So I don't know, but maybe we keep Jaime at that 6th man and just let him keep thriving in the role he's in and just scoring at will when he is in the game. So that's a question mark that I'm not too sure on. Another question mark I'm not too sure on, but I can't lie, was a thought that popped into my head is like, man, maybe we should be looking to upgrade our center or power forward depth because Ware and Jovic have been disappointing, but I don't want to get too transfixed on short-term solutions here because I don't think necessarily this is our year anyways for, large success in the playoffs. I think we could be a scary team for a lot of Eastern teams, and I think we can perform well, but I wouldn't necessarily be making win now moves anytime soon. We'll see. We'll see how things go throughout the season and where we're at. But I do really wholeheartedly believe this offense is going to be rejuvenated once Hero and Powell are back. And let's hope that at the very least Powell is back tonight, and let's hope that Hero is back in a couple of games. We were told sometime in November, early to mid-November. So we're getting into it. But that's the recap for the Lakers and Spurs game. We'll now move on to previewing our next two games. Tonight, we play the Clippers, again, off of a back-to-back, a 10:30 start. They are the tied for the fourth worst turnover team in the league at 17.2 per game. Again, I feel like every time I mention this, we end up not taking advantage of the turnover battle. So hopefully we can actually take advantage of the turnover battle here. They're 19th in net rating at minus 3.7. They, middle of the pack offense, lower half or, bottom 10 defense. Their assist to turnover ratio is not great. They're the third slowest team in the league, at least at the time of checking this last night. 96.6 pace. They're very slow. They are top 10 in steals and blocks, and they do not foul a lot. But they also don't draw fouls. They're bottom 10 in drawing fouls. They're bottom 10 in allowing points off turnovers. They're bottom 10 in allowing fast break points. But they are top 10 in defending points in the paint, thanks to, Zubac. And we're top 10 in preventing points in the paint and scoring points in the paint. So we'll see how that battle works out. And if Zubac is able to hold down the fort, I think, again, the key here is kind of what we saw or what, happened in their Jazz game, the Clippers did, where they got blown out by the Jazz. They just went against a younger team that outran them. I think if we can speed them up, we'll win. That's the simplest milk or wine take here. If we can have the pace more like what the Heat like to play at, we're going to win this game. They're too old to run up and down the court the way that we do. We need to take advantage of the fact that they are bottom 10 in allowing fast break points, and we love to get the fast break going. And we have to take advantage of the fact that they turn the ball over to capitalize on that and score off of turnovers. And that's how we can get those easy points in the paint. But while I think this game is winnable without Powell, even just based on how the Clippers have performed, I know they are, I think they're 3-2 right now, but their only wins are against the Pels, the Blazers, and the Suns. So not juggernauts by any means. They got blown out by the Jazz and they got held to 79 points by the Warriors. So that's not good. Yeah, really hoping we can take advantage of that this game and just have a bounce back game. I think it would do great for Heat's short-term memory to get a win on this road trip, especially because the last game of this road trip is against the Nuggets, and that's a hard one. It's always a hard one. So this is the one to win. This is the game to win. I also just feel like if Norm plays, it's going to be the Norm revenge game. That's my milk or wine take. Norm is going to show out and show them what they missed out on. I think he's cold-blooded, and he's going to look great once he's back in the game, if he is back in the game. Another milk or wine take, my last one for this one. We're in for a big Bam game because he's going against a depoy candidate. And anytime he's against anyone who's ahead of him on defensive rankings or votes so far, he's been showing out. So I'm hoping it'll be different. I think he'll have to use his speed rather than his strength to get Zubac moving, because Zubac is not going to get pushed off his spot the way that Bam was able to push Wemby or even a Jaren Jackson Jr. off their spots. He's a huge, huge man. So I think it's going to be more about craft, speed, finesse on that, and just, taking them on that. But that's what we're hoping for, right? We will see. It's a late night game. I will not be watching it tonight. I will be watching it tomorrow morning, skipping through commercials, and we'll be talking about it on Thursday and hopefully be celebrating a dub on Thursday. But our last game preview here is against the Nuggets. The Nuggets are tough. They're one of the best teams in the league. They are arguably the second favorite to win the championship, if behind OKC. Some would probably say the favorite. They are third in offensive rating going into this game, fourth in defensive rating. They're only allowing 109.6 points per 100 possessions, so we want to score more than that, ideally. They're fourth in net rating at plus 11.5, just based on how good their offense and defense have been. While they are bottom half in pace, they're not super slow. They also don't turn the ball over a lot. They are bottom half in blocks and steals. They are fourth in allowing points in the paint. They allow 56 points in the paint. So let's hope we can take advantage of that. One of my milk or wine takes for this game is just that Mr. Jaime Jaquez Juan Wick is going to go off in this game. I think he's going to maybe have a down game against the Clippers, going against Zubac, and then have an uptick in this game in Denver. That's the hope, that he can, show out and really capitalize on their lack of paint defense. The Nuggets are third in fast break points. Prior to this Clippers game, prior to this Lakers game, we were second, pretty much even, 20.2 versus 20.4. I have not re-looked at these stats since after the Lakers game that happened late last night. We're recording early morning again. So we'll see if how that looks for us. And I think it's kind of hard to stop Jokic from getting great passes and getting them great fast break looks. They do have a good fast break defense. Generally speaking, Jokic does underperform a tiny bit against the Heat. I'm not making any bets on this. I am not promising anything. It's very tiny. Uh, his overall stats, 26.8 points per game. He scores 21.7 against the Heat. The rebounds are the same. The assists are about the same. His 3-point shooting drops from 0.58 to 0.33 against the Heat throughout his history against us. And his shooting overall drops to 0.377 uh, against us. So I'm sorry, his 3-point shooting is 3.7 drops to 3.3 against us. So we'll see. I'm not making any bets on that. Jovic is awesome. And man, I truly hope this might just be copium. I'm not saying milk or wine on this, but I really hope that Ware has a good game. Really hope that Jovic has a good game against his other Nikola, against his EuroLeague teammate. I'm not going into this game making any types of aside from hoping Jaime Jaquez plays well. I'm not making any other milk or wine takes on this game because I am frightened by the Nuggets. So that is what it is. My one hope is that they are slower than we are, and that Bam typically guards Jokic pretty well. We're one of the better teams at guarding Jokic, but that doesn't mean much because he's Jokic and he's unstoppable. So that pretty much covers everything we're going to be talking about in this pod. We do have one last segment after this in which we're talking about the Heat's new offense that was introduced to us by Noah LaRoche. We also talk about John Morant a little bit, and stay tuned to get into all that after this. All right. First and foremost, if you made it this far into the pod, I appreciate you very much. Thanks for sticking with us. We're going to be talking about a person who has been introduced to the Heat this year, who was actually introduced to the Heat by Duncan Robinson. It was a last parting gift from our sweet, sweet Duncan, who's playing very well for the Detroit Pistons right now. But this isn't about Duncan. This is about someone who grew up in the same town as Duncan. This is about Noah LaRoche. If you've been following the league at all right now, or following the Heat specifically, you've probably heard about this new offense the Heat are running. It's the reason for our incredible pace right now. It's the reason for the lack of on-ball screens that we've been doing, and the lack of dribble handoffs, the lack of set plays necessarily on offense. If you were watching the Nightcap on Amazon Prime, which has been excellent, by the way, Bam and Powell were two of the first guests to be on this show. And on it, they actually went through a very quick explanation, and they did this with a graphic overlay on the court. It was pretty cool, of what's going on in the Heat offense and how it's working. And I do want to just make a quick aside and say, if you think that them doing this is the reason why the Lakers were able to scheme against us better, then you have a fundamental misunderstanding of coaching and how much work goes into coaching. They gave away very fundamental things, very top layer, surface level stuff that any coaching staff, any video coordinators who are going through and watching film would easily be able to point out and notice. This is their job. They do this for a living. That segment is not the reason why anyone is being able to scheme or not scheme against us. But regardless, this brings me to the person who did bring this scheme to us, who is Noah LaRoche. Previously to being a consultant for the Heat, which right now he is a consultant, he's not a full-time employee. He, as well as I'm aware, is on this West Coast trip with the Heat, has been involved in our practices, and is helping implement this system, as well as, innovating on it with our Heat coaching staff. Before we get too much into the system, just to go through his backstory, he was a D3 college player, not great, and he ended up coaching at a D3 school, St. Joseph. And after installing his offense in that team, the team ended up averaging 20 points per game more than they did the season before. So, an increase from 73 points per game to 93 points per game in the one season that Noah LaRoche was there and helping install that offense. Afterwards, he then helped the University of Virginia do the same thing. They didn't fully adopt it. They still did some on-ball screening, but they did mix it in. And he helped them improve from a 234th ranked offense to a 58th ranked offense in the country. So again, these are some pretty big improvements on, the college level at a D3 school and then at the University of Virginia. Afterwards, he came over to the Memphis Grizzlies. This was where he was at last season. He helped them install a brand new offense with head coach at the time, Taylor Jenkins. During his tenure with Taylor Jenkins, the Grizz were 44-29. This is before firing Taylor Jenkins. They were tied for fourth in the West. They had a top 6 offense in the league and a top 10 defense, but this is more about offense. And based on their efficiency, they actually had the worst win differential in the league, which means based on how they were playing, based on their net rating and based on their stats, they actually probably should have won 5 more games. So it's more likely they should have been 49-24. So even higher than fourth in the West, third or second in the West. I think that's good for third. But regardless, this is an example of how well the Grizz were playing. They had the fastest pace in the league while this offense was running, 103.85, which the Heat are actually going faster than that right now, currently. And then after firing Taylor Jenkins and Noah LaRoche, they went 500, which is just 3 games, or 6 games rather. They went 3-3, and their offense dropped to 17th in the league during this stretch from top 6th. So this happened because John Morant, which we'll get into a little bit after this, was not a fan of this offense. He didn't feel like it unlocked his game as well, even though the team itself was performing spectacularly and allowed them some insurance for games that Ja wasn't healthy, which Ja has had off-the-court issues and health issues throughout his career. So this was a little bit better for them to have, considering their star is not always available. But regardless, Ja threw a fit and fired and got his head coach fired. And with him, Noah LaRoche was removed from the Grizzlies, leading him to us, to the Heat, in which he's helped us install this offense, which is helping the Heat lead the league in pace. The whole idea here is that we are kind of playing a read and react offense. He's actually inspired. I went back and listened to some old interviews of his, inspired by football in terms of how he developed this. I'm going to read a quote to you all just to kind of go through it, and I'll surmise some of it, so this isn't word for word, but he's looking at how do you create an advantage, right? You could do it however you want. One guy might beat his guy in space and drive into space, and now the defense gets in rotation. That's an advantage that was created. And then how do you maintain that advantage is the next question. And there's a couple of things. So when you're driving, you're cutting, you're screening, these type of things are or mechanisms, they're tools to create these advantages. And then you maintain your advantage through your relocation of the ball, because when you do get that advantage, oftentimes the defense reacts. And that first reaction is usually pretty quick. The key here is to get the defense continuously off a step, continuously reacting through the relocations of the ball. The ball travels faster than players do. So if you can swing, and until someone gets that open drive or until someone isn't being watched by their defender and it gets a nice cut, you can get an easier bucket. He calls this the TB12s for Tom Brady, because once you create that advantage, you become the quarterback of the offense. And the other 4 guys are the receivers. So you're reading who's open, and it's important for those receivers to be doing something off ball, to be constantly rotating around and cutting and driving and, just constantly creating space. This offense, again, this isn't from his quote, but this offense really works best when you do have 5-out spacing, or at least 4-out spacing, which is why we're seeing some issues with it currently without Powell or Hero there on the court as the main threats from 3. But regardless, it's still showing great signs for us, even thus far without them. So the idea is just, again, creating space, getting the defense to have to react constantly, and through that, reading the passing windows, making the right pass, swinging again, making the right drive, making the right pass, until eventually you just get that open bucket until it's easy. So the idea is just to, again, when you get that advantage, no matter how you get it, whether it's off a screen or a cut or a drive, don't just stand there. Always chase space, always relocate, because it forces the defense to have to make decisions. And sometimes they make the wrong decisions. You're forcing them to constantly be reading and reacting. It's a very fundamental offense. It's something that you might learn in like AAU or in college ball. Bam himself referenced this when he was on the Nightcap. But the idea is, especially with a team that doesn't have an on-ball star like a Luka, or even in his prime, or that feels weird to say, but even like Ja, who work really well off that pick and roll because of just how dynamic of a scorer they are in that scenario. when you don't have that, which the Heat don't currently have someone who's that level of necessarily on-ball talent, this allows you to get a little bit of an easier flow to the offense for your other players. It's why we're seeing an uptick in Bam scoring. It's why we're seeing Jaime perform so well, because while he can take people off the drive, it's a lot better to be playing in this read and react offense, to be playing off of these mismatches that sometimes you get when you're running up and down the court very quickly. He did mention that the defenses he thinks would have the best effect against this kind of offense were zone, then switching, then packing the line in that order. And, last night there was some zone being played against the Heat. So shout out to JJ Redick. But that in and of itself isn't necessarily the antidote. It's just something that you have to solve for as you get to it. He did have this wonderful quote that's interesting and why he kind of was led to this revolutionary offense. That it was a quote from Warren Buffett. "The chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken." Which is interesting because, of course, the pick and roll is so fundamental to what we see in any team's offense. And it's kind of just become this habit, right? And it's not to say that this is going to lead to a whole new league in which everyone abandons the pick and roll. I think a good mix is probably the best place to be. And I think it depends on your personnel, of course. But it is interesting to see just how much or how far off the deep end we've gone with this and how it's been working. Even though the Heaters 3-3, again, we've played some tough teams. We're on the road. We're missing two of our best scorers who really are maximized by this kind of offense. It is interesting to see how the early signs are showing. And with the Grizzlies, there were some great early signs with them too. So we want to see what this looks like throughout a whole season or throughout larger portions of the season, throughout a time when our team is actually healthy, to get that real read on this. When they asked him this interview, what does he think the two most important things for a basketball player to have? And he said positioning and decision making are the two most important things. And it's funny, obviously you can get nitty gritty. Anybody can have different opinions on this, whether it's scoring or whether it's shooting or defense, whatever the case may be. He went a little bit more granular in these two things because positioning refers to both offense and defense. Decision making refers to both offense and defense. But being able to make sure you're always in the right position, whether you're on offense or defense, but let's stick to offense right now, allows you to either space the floor or to be reading and reacting and cutting at the right times. He did mention, and Bam mentioned too, when you're moving like this, moving the ball so much, a lot of defenders can get caught ball watching. It's a normal habit for people to have. And when you get caught ball watching, and when the offense emphasizes people moving and cutting and just constant motion, if you do catch a moment where your defender's not paying attention to you off ball, you can get those little slip cuts across the baseline, which we've seen a ton of already this year. Or sometimes where there's another cutter following up the driver and then getting that little dump pass in for a layup or a bucket, So there's a lot that goes into just capitalizing on mistakes. You're constantly putting the defense in a position in which they're not necessarily running their set defense. They're reacting to whatever you're doing. There's also some, this was on the Hoop Collective podcast, I believe, where they mentioned that it's interesting and it's true. Most of the time during the offseason, teams are practicing their pick and roll defense because that's what the league mostly runs. So right now there is a little bit of novelty to it, right? Where you're kind of nixing all the stuff you practiced throughout the season and having to practice defending a different offense in real time. So maybe this has some diminishing returns as more people catch on to it. This is yet to be seen, right? We will find out. And I do think that in a perfect world, there's probably a little bit of a mix here, not just purely this complete lack of on-ball screens that the Heat are running. I imagine even if we stay to this extreme throughout the regular season, when you get into the playoffs, you're going to have to mix things up just a little bit as teams are able to scheme for you more specifically. But that's pretty much my segment on Noah LaRoche. Nothing too much to belabor here. He is still working with the Heat. I'm assuming, I don't know what they're doing, if they're just kind of giving a larger sample size before deciding to hire him full-time, if they ever decide to hire him full-time, and see how that works. But so far, the results are working pretty well. We're seeing Jaime's best season, and it's no surprise, and he's credited this offense as to a large reason for it. And Bam is having a similar reason for it. Powell, Wiggins, all of them are very complimentary of this offense. So they're feeling good, at least, about it. Of course, wins and good play makes you feel good. Seeing ball go in hoop makes you happy. Who would have thought, right? But this does lead me to the next point that's a little less related to Noah LaRoche, but still related to him because of his ties to John Morant. So very recently, well, a little bit less recently, but the Heat did blow out the Grizzlies. Want to call that out, which was wonderful. And the Grizzlies have continued to not play very well. And Jaw had a terrible game the other night in which he showed a lack of effort, which is what he was called out for throughout the game. And then he threw his coaching staff under the bus and looked, for the most part, despondent. He looked just completely checked out. He does not seem happy where he is. We could play the blame game here, whether Jaw's to blame, whether the coaching staff is to blame. I mean, you already got one coaching staff fired and you're looking to get this other coaching staff fired that's supposedly running the offense that you like to run. And it does seem like there is a lack of effort on his end. He's complained about this coach, Isalo, I believe is the name, calling people out directly. That's kind of the way he likes to coach. And Jaw doesn't like to be called out, apparently, which is why the point of what I'm getting to here with Jaw is I've seen some whispers, some murmurs around Heat circles that the Heat should trade for Jaw. And I don't know. I disagree on a lot of levels. Again, if we're to do it, if it were to happen, I'm going to root for him because I'm a Heat fan. So I'm going to root for whatever the Heat do. I'm going to criticize it and give my opinions, but I'm going to hope that they're right and, more correct than I am. But on multiple levels, just first starting off, we bring in the guy who's running the offense that Jaw hates and our team is loving. So by bringing in Jaw, you're going to have to sell him on wanting to play the offense that he did not want to play last season on the team he's been on and the team he was happy with prior to all of this. So that's already one uphill battle you're going to have to face here. Second, of course, the injury history, the off-court shenanigans. While he's been a little better about that stuff, I still don't necessarily know if he warrants the most trust in the league. And then there's a maturity level, not enjoying being called out, calling out his coaches, throwing fits on and off the court. So those are all questions that don't necessarily fit with the Heat lifestyle. Then when you get into his actual play, if you're like, okay, ignore all that. At the end of the day, he's this, tarnished asset, but we can rehabilitate it and make him play well, get him back to his prime. Maybe, right? This is all theoretical here. But when you look at Jaw's stats over the last few seasons, it's actually a little concerning. His points per game has decreased. His points per game in the paint, has decreased each year since his rookie season. So what he's known for is getting to the rim, attacking the rim, and having these dynamic layups, these dynamic dunks. And every year since his rookie season, that number has gone down. In his rookie season, he averaged 16.6 points in the paint. In the last two seasons, in which, this season, obviously small sample size, but last season he did play a good amount. He was down to 11.4 points in the paint. And this is a trend. It wasn't just 1 year. It was every year since. And obviously there's some years in there where he only played a handful of games because of injury and off the court shenanigans. But point being, he is looking like he's being able to get to the rim less effectively than he used to, which is what you're trading for when you trade for Jaw. Also, he's just not a good shooter, which it gets you concerned when if you can't get to the rim at the level you were getting it to, can you space the floor? And it does not seem like it. His three-point percentage has never been good. The highest actually was his rookie year, shooting 34.9% from three. Last year, he went down to 32.6%. Again, this isn't like terrible, but it's not a threat, and it's not great for a guard. You want your guards to be shooting better than that. And this year, again, low sample size, right? But he's at 15.6%. He's had a few stinkers in which he's just, bricking the ball. So there's some concern there. The free throw rate has gone down. He's getting fouled even less than he used to. His PER has gone down every year. His win shares have gone down every year. There's been large segments of time that the Grizzlies have performed really well with or without Jaw. So there's just a lot of questions into how good is he? Obviously, he has the physical tools, unless there's been some incredible decline that we're unaware of at such a young age. He has the tools, but is he putting in the work? Is the maturity there? Is the willingness to be coached there? There's just a lot of question marks on that front with John Morant. And then my last but not least point here is we're not necessarily in need of a guard. Like if you're taking Jaw's best season and, just raw talent, then sure, he's probably better than Tyler. He's maybe better than Norman Powell, obviously younger than Powell. I think there's an argument there to be had, but the point being, it's not like a huge upgrade for us. We have two good guards, and our guard depth is decent too. Obviously, he's better than our bench guards. But the point being is, it's not really a position we're weak at. So you're trading for like a minimal potential upgrade that may or may not be a terrible fit, and he's making a lot of money. So, you know, I personally would stay away from it. I could be regretting this. I could be thinking that he ends up on another team and ends up rejuvenated, revitalized, and having one of the best seasons of his career once he's out of whatever's happening in Memphis. And I really don't know. I mean, someone needs to do a documentary on their decline. They were the top seed in the West a couple of years back, giving the Warriors a run for their money. And now they're just sad. They're just sad. Taylor Jenkins being fired from there wasn't, I think, the greatest sign. Don't know if they're going to fire another coach or if they're going to decide to blow it up first. I truly am unsure what they're going to do over there, but it's just, it's worrisome. It's worrisome on that front. And I worry about bringing this kind of tarnished, bruised asset into an environment that's not toxic right now and everyone is happy and everyone's enjoying each other. I just hope that we can keep that, and I'd be wary of doing anything that could get in the way of that. Last but not least, I just do want to shout out to, regarding this offense that Jaw hates, the style of offense that Jaw hates, Evan Turner and Chris Mannix on their podcast, they did give a shout out to Bam and giving him credit for the reason we're playing so well. Because even though he's not necessarily the full scoring hub of this offense, even though I think he is currently leading our team in scoring with Powell and Hero out, but his ability to play in transition, to protect the rim, to run the ball up the court, to just be a shot caller, a leader, a top tier wing, to assist at a high level. It's a good reason that this offense is working. It's a main reason this offense is working. His willingness to play in this way and to, show off his athleticism, which people forget how athletic Bam is. So I just did want to shout them out. But, this wraps up the pod for today. We will be recording again, as always, for a Thursday pod, which we'll be recapping that Nuggets game and previewing the games we have after that. I believe we play the Hornets and maybe one more game before the Monday pod. But we'll get to all that, maybe do a little in-season tournament review, as I think that Hornets game is our first in-season tournament game. Some people might not be that excited about it. I know it doesn't mean as much as a championship, nowhere near as much as a championship, but I do think I'm a fan. I think it's a cool addition to the game. I think over time, as it continues to grow and as it continues to be a staple in the league, as long as they don't remove it, then there will be some extra, credibility added to it. Just to being able to say that you won early in the league, that you came early in the season, that you came into this season playing your best, and that despite what might have happened later in the season, you were able to show out early in this early season tournament with your roster, and maybe you come into the season healthy and you ended up getting injuries and that's why you don't perform well in the playoffs, but you did win the in-season tournament. Again, this is all, I don't think it'll ever mean as much as a championship, and it probably shouldn't, but I think it is still a cool thing, and it matters as much as we make it matter. And the players do seem to try harder in these games. They do seem to be incentivized, at the very least, by the money. So we'll get into all that in the next pod. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate you. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, 5 stars, all that stuff. See you next time.